Hey guys, it is me again, and welcome back to today's episode of Talking About Games 5,000 Years After Its Relevance. So, a few months ago, I set out on a journey to play all of the To the Moon trilogy by Freebird Games. The first two games, To the Moon and Finding Paradise, was a blast to play, with amazingly written story and beautiful soundtrack. I made two other videos about those games, and link will be in the description. After I made that video about Finding Paradise, I kind of forgot about the series for a bit because I was on vacation, but when I got back, it was summer sale time, baby. I got my credit card in hand and ready to give Lord Gaben all of my savings just to play the third entry of the series, Impostor Factory. But after 4 hours and a few minutes later, I feel that this game was a little different. So let's talk about that. Now, when I say different, I don't mean as in the game is a total mess and it destroys the entire series with its mere existence alone. I am saying that it isn't the same as To the Moon or Finding Paradise. I had a great time playing it, but it almost felt like that the game wanted to take the story in another direction, but still tried to retain the emotional impact of its predecessors. In Act 1, the game set us up with a time-looping murder mystery in a big mansion where there is a party for important people, and now character Quincy is at the center. The hosts were killed, and Quincy found out about the time-traveling sink that reset time every time he washes his hands. Interesting premise so far, like Khan really knows how to entice player with interesting setup to a bigger story. It is a bit unusual though, because this entire series might have some elements of science fiction, but it was never the focus. But instead, it is the meaning and the appreciation of a person's life. I was a bit skeptical, but intrigued nonetheless, so we have no choice but to move on. So eventually, Quincy figured out that one of the guests, a girl named Linnery, has something to do with what's going on. Quincy approached the girl and tried to get her to believe what he says, but screw up time and space in the process. So apparently, Linnery said that she created this world and she created Quincy as well. She shoved him into a room and promised that everything will be explained once inside. Quincy found himself in a dark void with a mysterious light at the end of a flight of stairs, and that is the end of Act 1. Might not make a lot of sense to you, but remember that this game is the continuation of To the Moon, so they might be inside a simulation like in the previous game. We might be watching the memory of a dying patient unfold. I was eager to see my two beloved specialists, Neil and Ava, make their iconic entrance in Arc 2, but instead, we are greeted with this beautiful flower field and young Linnery. Yeah, the game took a really unexpected turn after that. This is where I start to have a problem with the game. It built itself up to be a sci-fi murder mystery. However, in Act 2, we follow Quincy's footsteps as he slowly realizes that he's actually a prominent figure throughout the memory of Linnery, old school To the Moon style. And don't get me wrong, I love this act. Linnery is an amazing character. Her life story is absolutely wholesome yet heartbreaking. It was an emotional ride, going through her struggles during childhood, her sacrifices in her marriage with Quincy, and the loss of their son due to her condition. I adore the story of this act, but I just wish they give this story more background to stand on. Maybe it is just me, but starting the game out as a detective game and suddenly switch genre in the middle of it just rubs me the wrong way. I mean, at the end of this act, we do find out that Linnery is the originator of the memory-altering technology that Sigmund Corp have been using, and that due to the loss of their son, she abandoned Quincy to finish the project, and that the Quincy we are playing as is just a version of him which has been ripped off of all the memories. This revelation is cool, but the part where our character Quincy is not real feels like it was forced into the story because the beginning of the game set up a totally different kind of plot. They could easily take this act and make an entire separate game that doesn't need to be convoluted with the murder mysteries and whatnot. Ava and Neil could fit into this story perfectly with some modifications. For example, make the patient this time Linry perhaps, with the knowledge of what happens in the final act, which we will dive into later. The emotional payoff would be so much better. But with what have been built up in the two Sigmund Corp mini episode, the story would be stripped away of its mysteriousness, but it would give these characters a chance to have more emotional impact to the players, more than to say that nothing is real in the first place. What I'm getting at here is that even though the story is great, it felt pointless to even go through all of the memory of Linry like that when the ultimate goal is something completely different. The fact that they just revealed Quincy to be not real already ruined my emotional investment in him. And now showing an AI the life of a real person without truly explaining the purpose make the ending of this act fall a bit flat for me. And speaking of the ultimate goal, let's head on over to Act 3. And now there's Act 3. Contrary to the first two acts, I have mixed feelings about this one. I won't go into too much details of what's going on, but basically, we found out that this whole thing is to just fix some kind of anomaly inside the simulation, which is caused by a very familiar character to the fan of the series, Faye from Finding Paradise. She revealed that the world that Linry is running the simulation on is also actually just another simulation that needs to be destroyed because it would destabilize the entire actual machine. Before ending their world, she explained to Linry and Quincy that the version of the memory being played in Act 2 is also not what happened in reality. In the real world, Linry gave up her early treatments for their baby to fully develop before birth, and that boy grew up taking his mother's last name and a different first name to fit that. The boy turns out to be none other than Niels Watts. This twist is particularly interesting because it brought an end to the overarching mystery of what is Neil hiding. A lot of people might say that it is a little predictable near the end, but in my opinion, it is a very cleverly thought out reveal, giving fans of the series the answer being built up for the past decade. But then again, I think if the game had some changes to the story and the way it was written from the beginning, it would have given it so much more meaning. And that's not all. Faye offered to take Quincy and Linry on a ride of the simulation where everything is perfect as compensations for destroying their world. We got to see what would happen if Linry never had to suffer from the genetic disorder and live her life to the fullest. She met Quincy, had a beautiful family, giving birth to Neil, and got to see him achieve happiness. This is the near end of the game, and like Neil himself said, that this is a little disappointing. In To the Moon and Finding Paradise, we got the chance to know the purpose of the procedure, and the stakes were built up well that by the climax every emotion just burst out at once. I don't know if the fact that this is all happening inside a simulation just render all of my feelings to nothing, or is it that the ending without any background to stand on just don't make it emotional enough like the first two games. Also, to my dismay, they didn't put the theme song at the end, but it goes with the soundtrack DLC. I have nothing against selling your music, and the artist that performed the song was so incredible that it would have fit so many moments in this game, but it wasn't there. Okay, by this point, I think I need a moment to calm down. Like, I really, really like this game, and I want to like it even more, but a lot of things that just doesn't fit like the previous entry. And with that said, I guess I do have some comments on the good side of the game. As much as it disappoints me when the theme song wasn't in the actual game, I have to admit, Kangao and his people are all top tier musicians. Every bit of music in this game was well crafted and fit perfectly with each scenes. Listening to the soundtrack again after purchasing it makes me feel like these melodies seem to carry the same emotional value of the moments in the game. The comedy is also on point with a lot of interactions between Quincy and Linry. Quincy's reactions were just priceless when he thought he is going insane when being stuck in this murder mystery at the beginning of the game. And furthermore, at the near end, we got to see Rice Bot makes rice so good that it makes Quincy cries. If this isn't comedy gold, I don't know what is. The graphics quality of this game is also improved a lot compared to its predecessors. If anything, this might be one of the most visually creative game out of the series. And finally, the writing quality is still phenomenal. The dialogue of Act 2 not only convey inspiring messages but also extremely emotional. The other two acts got its flaws and not totally fit well together, but it was still an enjoyable time. At the end of the day, I understand that they have been trying to retell the same style of story 3 times in a row, so they do want to do something different with the game by mixing up the genre a bit, but it just makes the heartfelt story of Act 2 fall flat without any background build up or any sort of stakes for going through her memory like this. Despite having a lot of improvements compared to the other games, it trying to be two different things at once makes it a little bit disappointing to play. However, Impostor Factory is still a fun and enjoyable game if you are a fan of the series. Alright, thank you guys so much for reaching the end of my video. I am sorry if this video is a bit ranty. I just had a lot on my mind to see the ending of a decade-long series fall flat for me. But hey, it's just an opinion. So I hope you guys enjoyed your stay, and I will be seeing you in the next video where I empty my pocket for the summer sales. Bye-bye. Is that a meme reference in a video game? Yo guys, I take it all back. This is a 10 out of 10 game.